Welcome back to Uncaged Chaos, the space where being human doesn't come with anybody else's permission. I'm Andi, certified life coach, recovering people pleaser, and I teach others how to uncage themselves because healing was never meant to be done quietly. If you've ever felt trapped by your past, addicted to drama, or stuck in the version of yourself that no longer fits, this episode is for you. We're going to get blunt and call it like it is, and we're going to start the work of uncaging the version of yourself that's been trapped by your own narrative. You say you want peace, but every time life gets calm, you light a match. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's very subtle. A text you send, a boundary you don't hold, a doubt you rehearse, a story you repeat over and over. You don't miss the chaos. You miss who you get to be inside of it. And that is the cage we're going to be unlocking today. I want to make something very clear here. Trauma is very real. What happened to you matters. It shaped you. It forced you to adapt. It wired you for survival. But trauma is not your personality. It's something that happened. It influenced you. It shaped your behavior, but it is not your name. Some of you have built entire identities around survival and have labeled yourself the strong one, the independent one, the one who never needs help, the anxious one, the one who always gets abandoned, the victim, the one who believes nothing ever goes right. Now, please understand, being victimized is real, but living in victimhood as a permanent identity is very different. At some point, coping mechanisms stop becoming strategies and start becoming self-descriptors. And once that happens, you start to defend them. You notice rejection faster than support. You interpret neutral as negative. You sabotage progress and call it fate. If nothing ever goes right for you, you don't have to risk hope. If the world is always against you, you don't have to examine your patterns. If you're the one things always happen to, you never have to be the one that changes them. That's the cage. Trauma didn't put you there. Your attachment to that identity did. When trauma becomes identity, chaos becomes comfort. Your nervous system does not crave happiness. It craves familiarity. And if chaos was home, calm will start to feel suspicious. If abandonment was common, stability feels temporary. If intensity meant connection, peace feels boring. You recreate what your body recognizes. Choosing emotionally unavailable people and calling it chemistry. Picking fights when things feel steady. Overcommitting until you're drowning and calling it ambition. Mistaking adrenaline for aliveness. You don't feel alive unless something is at risk. That's not passion. That is patterning. And that is the cage. The uncaging begins when you start to notice it. There's a difference between what happened to you and what you keep recreating. Your trauma was not your fault. Repeating it unconsciously, that is your responsibility. Responsibility is not blame. Blame says you caused this, but responsibility says you have the power now. And power is uncomfortable because once you admit you're participating in your patterns, you can't hide behind them anymore. You can't use them as excuses for your behavior. I know this because I've personally done it. I have used my chronic illness as a shield. I've told myself I can't do something, not because it was medically impossible, but because it was safer to stay small than risk trying and failing. I've people pleased to keep people close. I've overgiven, overextended, then blamed others for the damage that I caused myself. It was easier to cling to that identity than to rewrite it. But the cage becomes obvious when you can see your patterns and still choose them. That's the moment your uncaging begins. Now, confrontation without tools is just noise. So here's how you can start to uncage yourself. Awareness is where the uncaging starts. But if you interrupt the pattern, you'll keep living in it. So catch the identity in real time. Pay attention to how you talk about yourself, because words are not just neutral. They are reinforcing the identity you're trying to live out. Most of you are using absolute language without even noticing. I always mess up. I never get chosen. Nothing ever works out for me. I can't do this. That feels like truth, but it's not. It's simply just repetition. And repetition becomes identity. When you use words like always, never, nothing, your brain stops looking for exception and starts building a case. Now, you're not just having a moment, you're becoming the story. So when you hear yourself use these words of I always, I never, this is just who I am, pause and ask, is this fact or is this a story I've been practicing? Now rewrite your language. Don't just notice it, interrupt it in real time. This is not about being positive, it's about being accurate. Replace absolutes with reality. I always mess things up to this just didn't go how I wanted. Nothing ever works out for me. This feels disappointing, but it's not everything. I can't do this to this feels hard and I don't know how yet. You're not lying to yourself, even though you may feel like it. You're simply stopping the exaggeration that's keeping you stuck. Every time you shift your language, you loosen the bars of the cage. Now, the next part is to separate the event from the identity. Most people fuse these instantly. The event that this didn't work out. Your identity tied to it, nothing ever works out for me. Instead, break it into two sentences. This situation didn't go how I wanted. That does not mean this is who I am. That separation is everything. Next, name the payoff. Every identity has a benefit. Ask yourself, what do I benefit from this story? Because if your story is nothing works out for me, the payoff might be not risking hope, not taking responsibility, or not even trying again. Once you see the payoff, the pattern starts to lose its power. Notice how you feel most like yourself. Ask, when do I feel most like me? Is this when things are calm or when things are chaotic, intense, and uncertain? If it's chaos, that means your identity is still tied to survival. So when calm shows up and you feel restless, don't react. Just notice the feeling. This is unfamiliar, not unsafe. Interrupt the pattern mid-behavior, not after, but during. When you catch yourself over-giving, over-explaining, starting conflicts, pulling away, pause and ask, what version of me is in control right now? The one built from survival or the one I'm trying to become? And then choose one small different action. And that is how the rewiring actually starts happening. Rewrite your identity. We're not doing rigid labels anymore. We're creating movement. So instead of this is just who I am, try I am someone learning to respond differently. Someone expanding beyond my old patterns. I'm someone who doesn't have to stay who I was. It will feel unfamiliar and it'll almost feel like you're lying to yourself, but that does not mean it's wrong. It just means it's new. Now track your evidence. Your brain is biased towards your old story, so you have to show it new proof. At the end of the day, ask, where did I act differently today? Even small things count. You paused instead of reacted. You didn't overgive. You told yourself a different story. All of those are evidence, and evidence builds a new identity faster than motivation ever will. Rewriting your identity feels like betrayal at first because you are outgrowing the version of you that survived. But staying loyal to a version of yourself that no longer fits, that's just simply self-abandonment. If your trauma is still introducing you, ask yourself why. If chaos still feels like home, ask, what are you protecting? If you keep saying, this is just who I am, ask, who would you be if that weren't true? You can keep proving your old story right, or you can simply write a new one. Both are hard, but only one leads to freedom. If you are tired of living inside the same story and you're ready to actually do the work of uncaging yourself, I'm opening up a limited number of one-on-one coaching spots. This is for the people who are ready to take a hard look at the patterns they keep themselves stuck in, ready to rewrite the story they've been telling themselves, and ready to start living outside of the cage instead of just talking about it. You can apply using the link in my bio. This is Uncaged Chaos, where freedom isn't choosing a bigger storm, it's realizing you don't need one to feel like yourself.